Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Subscribing to My Podcast. Because I have a new guest on the show every week, it's very difficult to get consistent viewership. So if there's one thing that you can do to support me and the guest featured on my show is by interacting with the video. You can always unsubscribe later if you hate me or the content. Without further ado, here's your episode with Martin Hursh and Quinn Margrett are both running for your student body vice and president for this semester. And then I've seen you guys online. I've seen you guys on Instagram. I've seen you guys debate. And I watched you personally introduce us to the hall council in my residence hall just yesterday or a couple days ago. So I'm really excited to have you guys on. And I just had Holiday and Jones, and I figured I'd love to hear what you guys are talking about and what you guys are doing. But I like to give this opportunity for you guys to introduce yourselves and tell the guests and the audiences some of the important things that people know about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kick it off. My name is Martin Hursh. I'm running for student body president. I'm from Tucson, Arizona. I'm majoring in economics, and I'm currently serving as finance director for Iowa State student government.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here as well. My name is Quinn Margrett. I grew up here in Ames, Iowa. I'm actually...
You're all good.
We got it there?
Yeah, no, you're good. You look good. You look good.
I'm also in economics. I'm a sophomore, though, and I'm actually currently serving as student body vice president, so I'm looking to be reelected to that same role.
Wow. And so that's kind of interesting. So you're currently serving as the student body vice president, and then you're running with a different candidate, though.
I am.
And so I guess we'll get into kind of the specifics of what that looks like, but I want to hear what your guys' like platform is, and generally, if you were to sell to me, what are you guys running on this semester?
Well, Elijah, would you like to go to a free concert at Jack Trice?
I would like to go to a
You
free
would like
concert.
that? So great. We already know who you're voting
Sold.
for that. Yeah. No, absolutely. So that serves in one major way. Right now, we have a special projects account that has around $1.5 million in it. And so that's student money. Every Iowa State student has to pay that mandatory student activity fee. It's $49 a semester, and you have to pay it if you want to be an Iowa State student. That money gets sent directly to student government. And so right now we have a special projects account that has $1.5 million in it. So we have $1.5 million of student money that is sitting in an account that doesn't accrue any interest. How wrong is that? That doesn't seem right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that free concert for all students as Jack Trice, not only to create an unbelievable college experience, while at the same time also fundraising for student government. Number one, this is going to be free for all Iowa State students. But number two, we're going to have general admission tickets. That way we can fundraise for student government so we can allocate more money to student organizations on campus without increasing that mandatory student activity fee.
Okay. And so that's like your guys' that's the one that I've heard the most as far as this platform and what you guys are running on. And I want to, before we get into the concert specific, because I have some questions on the concert specific stuff, but I also want to hear about your guys' other points and what else is running, because I feel as if you're represented purely by the concert, people might not like fully understand what you guys are running on, you know?
No, absolutely. Quinn, you want to kick off non-ISU dining food options on campus?
Yeah, sure. So it sounds like I missed going to your hall council, but a little bit about me is I live in a dorm currently. I have for 2 years now, and I'm part of IRHA. And so we have some great connections with the Department of Residence and Dining. And a piece of context about dining, they used to be very anti-restaurant on campus. And so they used to have the philosophy of, if we can do it in-house, we're not going to bring more restaurants on campus. You know, students don't need that extra option. But we have a dining director right now who understands students want more diverse options on campus. And so I'll give you an example. They had it was a Pete's Coffee in the East Side Market. They changed that to a Starbucks in the past couple of years. They went from selling 178 cups of coffee a week to 178 cups a day. And so dining understands students want more diverse options on campus. And from the conversations we've had with them, they're very, very willing to bring more restaurants to campus. We've had conversations with Karen Rodenkamp, she's the director of dining, as well as leadership in the MU about maybe getting more, non-ISU dining restaurants in their food court area. And so that's the big thing that we want to do for students as well, is increase the diversity of choice that you have. Because I know we all kind of fall into those mundane routines with the same thing every day. We want to break that up and introduce some new things that they already have at other universities.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm from Tucson, Arizona. Yeah. The Memorial Union they have at the U of A. They have Chick-fil-A. They have Papa John's. They actually have some pretty good options that students want. I didn't have a car until this year. So I've been here for 3 years now. I didn't have a car the first 2 years. It is hard, man. It's hard trying to navigate Blue 3 and get the timing right. You got to make sure that you get there. If you miss it, now you're going to sit there and wait for a few minutes. Yep. It's difficult. You should not have to go worry about a bus, or if you don't have like a car, and drive all the way to Duff Street because you want a decent meal. It should be there on campus for students with a name that you want.
And then with the dining options, it seems I'm very unfamiliar with how like the student government works or how the process of these things happen. But it seems as if like if the plan were to get more dining options, that would be something that like dining would take care of. So what are your guys' roles specifically in either pushing this along or making these restaurants happen when you're talking about like planning to get these things done?
You want to hit that or you want me to, Martin?
You got it.
Sure, yeah. So I know I'll talk to you right now about what student government does. We don't have very strong ties right now with the Department of Residence or Dining. And so we really believe, we should have strong connections with, departments that manage so many students and that, so many students depend on. And so right now we don't do a lot with dining. We really are trying to change that. So I know I've been in IRHA, the Inter-Residence Hall Association, for those of you who aren't familiar with it. I've been there for 2 years in Parliament. They work very closely with dining. And so I know the Department of Dining, especially in the past year under Karen Rodenkamp as the director, they very much care about student input. They're not just making decisions behind closed doors. They want to hear what students have to say. They're more than willing to work with student government or IRHA to actually get stuff done. And so I've been there for 2 years. Even though Martin doesn't currently live in a dorm, he comes to the meetings, right? We're trying to establish a connection we don't already have with leaders on this campus. And so it seems like students want this, more diverse options. It seems like dining is, very much on the same page now, even though they weren't under previous directors. And so it seems like it's the perfect time for us to kind of step in and help push this over the finish line, make sure it gets done.
And so I'd imagine you guys are like polling to be like, what restaurants do we want on campus? So you guys are bringing that student voice to say like, this is what we want, and that they're kind of more on the logistical side of like, can we afford it? Can we do these things? Or do you think there are going to be aspects that you guys are able to help with in terms of like funding or like things
definitely collaboration, right? The last thing that they would want to do is get in a franchise that students don't want to eat at.
Yeah.
Just like how Quinn talked about, they are very open to student input. They ask for it, and they think it's fantastic. ISU Karen Rodenkamp, she goes to the IRHA meetings. I mean, there was a question yesterday where it was like, hey, how come we don't have this option at UDCC anymore? Like I was always waiting for Thursday to roll around, and they didn't have that, but they're very much so open to student input, and that's important. But there's also a formula too. From speaking with Michael Harwood, who oversees Department of Residence, you want to be able to bring in a franchise that doesn't cut student jobs. That's absolutely essential. Like, it's like, oh my God, everyone wants a Cane's or whatever it may be. Well, there's other things that go alongside that, making sure that students don't get their hours cut and students keep their jobs. That's essential for us.
Do you guys have any ideas as to what restaurants you're looking to put in there, or how you guys are going to navigate that choice?
Like what I would like personally. Okay, because we're not going to make any promises like which one in particular. Because I think you told me you want a Cane's. Is that right?
Cane's sounds good. Chick-fil-A sounds good.
Chick-fil-A.
Too.
How can you miss on Chick-fil-A?
Yeah. I said it has to be open on Sunday, otherwise we won't.
Oh yeah.
otherwise my vote's gone. So.
Oh man, that's going to be a tough one.
No, I'm kidding. But what ideas do you guys have? What do you think the public wants as far as restaurants go? I'm trying to like close my eyes and imagine I walk into the MU. And I look to my left and I see, what are you guys imagining is there?
Man, I'm a big Chipotle guy. I'm not going to BS.
Right?
Yeah, I like Chipotle a lot. I'm sorry. You go to the one here in Ames. And it's fine, but I feel like they can never figure out the white rice. I don't know if you've been there. Like, it's always clumped, and I'm like, dude, come on, are you kidding? Or it's like a half scoop. I'm like, dude, really? Yeah. Do I have to ask for double?
Skipping out on the rice.
100%. Yeah, I like a Chipotle in there.
Okay,
personally. Personally, this is no promises of what it's going to be.
This is not an endorsed Chipotle endorsement.
Yeah, they're not a sponsor of the Taste Show, right? Are they? You just set us up or not?
Actually, I got the managers right outside right now that they're going to go and do it with you.
I think they might have pitchforks.
Yeah. What about you? What are you looking to see on campus?
I think I'm very much on board for Chipotle as well, I got to be honest with you. But it kind of touches on your question a little bit. Kind of our unofficial 9th campaign point that, it's not something we've campaigned on, but something Martin and I are big on is doing a student polling program. It's like, honest question, when was the last time someone in student government asked you your opinion on something? Has that ever happened?
I think we're doing it right now. Right? I think that's
the first right here, right?
Yeah,
because I know before I was in student government, no one would ask me my opinion, right? I didn't really know student government existed before I sought it out and became involved with it. So decisions being made behind closed doors, why are we doing it like that? We should be asking students, what do you think, in this case, about what restaurant they'd want? But maybe more broadly about, do you want to pay this fee? Would you value this event? What do you think about this academic policy, right? Because we're making decisions kind of behind closed doors, guessing what students want. So Martin and I are big proponents of that. Let's actually ask students what they want.
Okay. Because you have to pay for it. Let's not forget that simple fact that you have to pay for the decisions that we make.
$98 a year.
$98
I gotta say,
a
that's
year.
no cheap thing for a college student. Over your undergrad, that's $400. That's truly hundreds of dollars you're giving student government. Should be able to look at,
And I have some questions about that actually with the payment. What has happened to that money before? Is it always just like never even gets close to spend? Nobody ever touches it, or like what has happened to this fund before you guys brought up the idea?
I think you're asking the right guy here.
Yeah, you know, hey, I'm the finance director. Nice to meet you. That's a great question. Yeah. So right now we have our special projects account that has gotten inflated over time. It has no reason to be at that $1.5 million range. So we do this thing, it's called the annual allocation process. So if you're a student organization that comes in, we allocate you money every single year. And so I have a meeting today from 4 to 8:30 tonight with our whole finance committee. Yeah, and we're gonna have all some orgs come in. Yeah.
Grueling meeting.
Oh, I mean, it's been like 20 hours the last couple of weeks just with student organizations going through that, budget hearing process. But before then, they have to do a help session. And they have to come in and I have to give a presentation and talk to them. And then there's always individual club meetings that you have to understand student government finances at a pretty high level to be able to navigate that with student organizations. Because you get asked questions, you're like, man, I have never heard that before, right? Like questions you would never think anyone would ever ask you get asked all the time. And so it's hard, but right now we do their annual allocation process. But the part that sucks the most out of my whole job is you have student organizations that come in that have great ideas that want more funding. They need more funding. And so there's a couple options, right? Either you can jack up your mandatory student activity fee, which I'll never do. I won't do it. I'll figure out a way where we don't have to, and that's what this concert hopes to do. Or you cut funding. Those are the two options. And so right now we're faced with, what are we going to do as an organization? Are we going to increase that mandatory student activity fee, or are we going to cut club funding? In the past, we've cut club funding, which doesn't feel right. Let's figure out a way where we can allocate more money to student organizations on campus without having to cut their budgets.
Okay, so the over $1 million that we have in this fund, it's not going to really get replenished after you spend it. It's going to get replenished through fundraising from this concert. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It's basically just so that we can pay for the concert. But then there's going to be general admission tickets that you sell. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? So there's 61,500 seats at Jack Trice. You need 15,000 general admission tickets for the event to break even, averaging $99 a ticket. That includes, floor seats all the way up to nosebleeds.
Okay.
Which is super reasonable.
Yeah,
for
well, and that
tickets.
still saves room for like the 30,000 free ISU students who could come as well.
And it's important to note, there's a concert happening May 25th at Jack Trice. They sold out. They didn't just sell out 15,000 seats; they sold out 61,500.
Yeah,
like there's very much so a desire for this in Iowa, in Ames, and specifically for Iowa State students.
What do you think? Let's say you guys never existed. What do you think would be happening with this money? Let's say you guys don't get elected, unrelated to what the other campaign is saying they're going to do. Let's just say nobody's ever talked about this fund. What do you think would have happened with this fund in the next 5 years?
I think the money would just sit there. But, I'd like to think that there would be someone that would be like, hey, man, let's do a concert. Let's fundraise with this money. Let's not just spend it and never have it again. Let's figure out how we can start getting, student money to work for us again.
Well, it seems like an attractive idea, and you guys are incredibly good salesmen.
We're not trying to sell you. We're trying to just tell you, this is the
situation. Not a bad thing. If you're selling a good thing, like that's a good thing. And I like this concert. I'm just kind of struggling to understand the concept of like what would be happening with this money if you guys weren't involved. It seems like such an insane thing that your guys' big thing is like, we have $1.6 million that's just sitting there that will never get used unless we use it. And I just wonder like what is happening outside of you guys with this $1.6 million. And I'm struggling to understand what happens to this money if you guys don't use it.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, just it's in a bank account.
Okay.
Like sometimes on a very rare basis, we'll use it for special projects. Or let's say a club didn't come in through our annual allocation process. When we fund them, we don't use our Senate discretionary or event account through it. We use our special projects account. But for the most part, we don't really touch that money. It just sits in a bank account that doesn't even accrue interest. How crazy is that? That's just like fundamentally wrong. I was at the investment banking club yesterday and I said, hey, you guys are all probably finance majors in here. Do you think it's a wise investment for us to stick $1.5 million in an account that doesn't accrue interest? And everyone was like, you're joking, or you can't be serious, right? No, it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And that's what we want to do. We want to actually, get that money to start working for us.
And so I think in regards to sustainability, I think this is probably one of my biggest concerns with the concert, is if you guys were to get elected as the president, vice president, student body, you would hope that the things that you guys are doing are going to be things that are traditions for the next foreseeable future forever. You know what I mean? You're hoping that the things that you implement are going to be lasting for a while. And this concert seems like such a big event, a big project that you would have to have people that are as motivated as you guys get elected to continue this process. So as my prediction, if you guys were to get elected and this concert would happen, it seems like in 5 years, maybe the council's like, I don't really have the energy to do this concert, and I don't think it's whatever this, or this. And then you lose that tradition. Where if you guys maybe would have used that money to something that was more long-term or whatever, something like that, maybe you don't have that issue. I guess, what do you guys have in response to something like that?
I think you have a hard time telling somebody like, hey, we're not going to do the concert this year.
Yeah.
I think it would be like, if you start saying like, hey, we're deciding we're not going to do the concert this year. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I think there would be uprisings, seriously.
Right. Okay.
But that's what students want, right? At the end of the day, that's why we're here. I don't need this. I'm going to go back to my internship that I was at last summer, and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. But it's like, it's about planting seeds and letting it grow to fruition. Absolutely. And I think once, you see it for the first time, it's always the hardest, the first. The first time you do something is always going to be the hardest. Like getting out of the bed to go to the gym at 5 a.m. That's going to be the hardest 5 a.m. wake up. But then you start getting into it. You start getting going. And soon enough, it's a lot easier too. Like it's hard running a campaign for the first time. You make some mistakes. You're like, God, I wish I would have done this differently. The second time's going to be easier. The third time's going to be even easier, and so on and so forth. So I think if you can do it the first time, you can do it the fifth time. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand it. Like it seems like, I guess from just like a student's perspective, I'm trying to find all of the things that like they would have issues with in regards to this concert, because it seems like such an incredible thing. Here's the second concern I have with the concert. There's this concept of inclusivity, of making sure that like you're doing things that affect as many people as you possibly can. But then you also have this problem of like, I need to make those effects impactful. Like I need to make sure that they're actually important. And so some people are of the mindset that I should do smaller things for more people. And some people have the mindset I should do bigger things for less people. It seems as if this concert is like a much bigger ask for maybe a smaller group of people than like maybe if you were to spend this $1 million on something that could affect all students in whatever kind of way. Do you guys get what I'm saying?
I would just say like, what are you thinking then? Because you're going to say like, oh man, we could just do like $1 million that every student would benefit from. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear that idea. Okay. And not only do you get to have that $1 million and you spend it once, but are you making more money off that so you can allocate it to more student organizations on campus without increasing that mandatory student activity fee? So it's great to say like, oh, you could just do smaller events for smaller people, for less people rather, and then it's going to be all 30,000. But how many students do you think are going to go to this free concert? Everyone I've talked to be like, oh my God, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I don't even care like if it's country music. I don't like country. I'm still going to go because what do we have going on in Ames? Not a lot. Okay. Not a lot at all. Yeah. And here's the thing too, to add on to that is let's say 15,000 students go for free. Let's just say 15,000. You got another 15,000 at Iowa State University. Let's say they're part of a club and that club got more funding this year than it got last year. And the reason why is because they went to a concert that they didn't even go to in the first place. This money has the ability to really impact our college experience. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really trying to think of like what my issues are. I like the idea of making sure that something happens, because the alternative is that like nothing happens with this money, or like nothing happens with the student government who are trying to, or the student organizations who are trying to get money from this. The scary part is that like nothing's going to happen. So I really appreciate that you guys are looking to do something with this 1.6.
You can't have that money just sit in a bank account.
Yeah.
That's wrong. It's so wrong. Because how crazy would it be that while you're a student at Iowa State, you've paid money for it to sit in a bank account that has never even been allocated while you're still a student at Iowa State? You could graduate. There are students that have paid their mandatory student activity fee. for that money to sit in an account and they've graduated. That's wrong. That is a bummer. We got to figure out how we can be better.
So that money goes directly into that account, that 1.6.
The annual allocation?
Yeah.
There's a lot of accounts that we have. Like we have our Senate discretionary, for an example, that has about $60,000 in it, and that's what Senate distributes. Then you have your special projects, but we have our annual allocation account. So that's different. That's when I was talking about you had those student organizations that came in. It's around, I think we're doing 85 clubs this year are coming through our annual allocation process. So that's a specific account for our annuals. If there's anything left over, it gets rolled into our special projects account. Same way goes with our events account or our Senate discretionary.
So is it true that like a proportion of their money is getting used?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So it's not like the $40 is
it's not like the whole 40 bucks is just sitting there, looking pretty. No, but that's about 2.6 million a year just through that mandatory student activity fee.
Okay. And then probably the rest of it gets spent like pretty well. You're just looking to tap into this half of the money that's
with a 1.5 that's just sitting there. Yeah, that's not doing anything. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That probably alleviates some of my confusion because I was like, how is it that each student is paying $40 each semester and nothing is happening to it? You know what I mean?
No, it is. Let's not forget. It absolutely is. But what I'm saying is we still have to cut money every single year from organizations' budgets. We want to allocate more money to student organizations on campus.
Okay. And so this money is, you're basically starting like a business of like, raising money with this money. So, and I guess I would worry. Do you ever worry that you're gonna have too much? Like, what if next year you have like $3 million in this account, and now you have like the same problem as like? I guess that's not a problem.
I mean, there's very much so a trickle down effect. So let's say you raise $3 million, and you have your 2.6 million in just your mandatory student activity fee. What does that mean? That means more. Have you been to ISU After Dark? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that means more money for them. Like, let's say you're part of a rodeo club and they're doing their stampede. You know, it's the last student-run rodeo in the country.
What?
It's oh my God, it's so cool. It's the coolest part is too. It's in part funded by student government and free for all students to go. How awesome is that? But that means more money for them, so they can do a bigger event. That's what this means. There's very much so a trickle-down effect from this funds. It's going to be better for all students. That's really the goal with this campaign.
Yeah, and I think in regards to the entire campaign that you guys are running, it's that it seems very focused on kind of these like long-term, it seems kind of money related, but a lot of the other campaigns that I've talked to are more like student related, or more like here are the problems that need to get solved with like academics, or in regards to like sexual violence, or in regards to like food insecurity. And I know you guys have that food insecurity point too, which I'd love to talk to you guys about. But it seems like there's maybe a more all-encompassing student thing, and this seems very focused on one very incredible aspect of the student experience. But I wonder what you guys are doing to kind of cover like all the bases that student government is expected to cover.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the concert gets talked about a lot, obviously, because that's a very eye-catching thing. Mm-hmm. But like, I want to make very clear, Martin and I, we have 8 specific things we've been campaigning on, and there are even more things that we actually want to get done. So like, I know you talked about fixing, academic policy, right? I'll give you an example of a student need that directly translated into a campaign point for us. I've been in student government 1.5, 2 years now. People that whole time have been asking me, hey, you're in student government, can you do something about prep week, for instance, right? Do you have a good prep week? Like, do you think it's the break that it's meant to be?
I'm the wrong person to ask. My major's super easy.
Oh, sorry, what's your major? I didn't catch
Psychology.
That. Psychology? Oh, yeah.
And philosophy, right? Come on.
No, but it does depend on the person's major, right? I know College of Design is interesting as well because it's very project-oriented during that prep week. But people have been talking to me and saying, hey, during that prep week, I'm doing projects. I'm submitting papers. I'm doing quizzes. I know my first semester here at Iowa State, I was in Econ 101, and we forgot to do some quizzes during the semester, so they all got pushed down into prep week, and we did like 3, weekly quizzes in 1 week, right? That's a lot. We're trying to give students more of a break when it comes to prep week to kind of catch your breath, be less stressed for your finals, and actually do better. And so we have great connections with the Faculty Senate. That's actually the body at Iowa State that deals with academic policy. And so we're really excited to work with them and kind of move the needle in a better direction so that I'm not saying next year, you're going to do nothing in prep week. That's not a reasonable thing. But we can move, policy in a better direction so it's helping students. So that's like an example of one thing as far as academics go that, was brought to us as a concern. Martin and I had a lot of conversations about how to approach that. And then it's actually something we're going to accomplish this year.
Okay, and so you're vice president right now.
Yes.
So you have some experience in like working in government and working on these like longer timetables. As far as the scope of these things, truthfully and honestly, with like the timeline, do you think that these things are achievable in this next term? Or are these things that maybe you're going to like say like in 2 years this will be done, or like we're just planting the seed and this will be done in like 3 years? Like walk me through the timeline and what you predicted it'll look like.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And I like to be very honest with people when I go talk to them about these points as well, because I don't want to be selling you something that's, not going to happen tomorrow, right? It's March. We're not going to be able to change, if we're elected, and take office in April, we're not going to be able to change academic policy for April. Or sorry, not for April, for August, I mean, right? That's not realistic. So it's not that, we can't get it done. It's just that we're laying the groundwork now for it to actually happen. So it's kind of, planting that tree that we don't necessarily see the shade of is kind of the analogy we like to use. So it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen by August, but we're going to get it done, and it's going to help students going forward.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's ever a policy or like a worthy sacrifice that you can make that could get done quicker, but maybe isn't as ambitious as what you guys are looking for? And do you think that's worth it? Or do you think that maybe this like long haul is just better in terms of what you guys are looking for?
Well, I mean, I guess I like to ask people when I go to clubs and hall councils and house councils and things, what has student government done for you this year? I'm actually curious. Do you have any examples or anything like that? Because I know a lot of people, I asked that question. I'm like, hey, anybody raise your hand? I had a guy yesterday kind of go like this a little bit. Not really. So I think student government kind of has this approach of what can we do today specifically to help? And we don't get a lot done because of that. I think if we start thinking bigger about not necessarily what can we do quickly and easily, but what can we do that's meaningful, I think that's how we get back to a student government that works for the students it represents. So I think Martin and I are very, steadfast in the idea that doesn't have to get done tomorrow for it to be worth us putting our time into today.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, and I think it's worth it. And I think it's noble. It's hard to make a platform that's based on things that you might not get to see like the fruits of, you know what I mean? And that's a difficult thing, but
I think that's what serving students is, right?
I'd say, somebody has to do it. And even now, like if I were to vote for you guys, I might be voting for something since I graduate next year. I might be voting for something that I won't really get to see. But at the same time, if I don't make that decision, then people in 5 years are never going to get the benefits of the things that you got either. And I didn't get the benefits of what student council did 5 years ago because somebody didn't think long term. So I think it is really noble of you guys to be working in that area. But I wonder if it ever comes back as criticism for you guys.
It's definitely paying, you pay it forward. And I do want to go back to something that you said. What do you mean if? When? No, March 5th and 6th. March 5th and 6th. I'll be check your email. There'll be polls. Do your civic duty, right? And don't forget to vote Hursh Margrett.
Right. Good catch. But yeah, I wonder if that ever comes back as criticism for you guys, though, as far as like the timeliness of this. And that I imagine is probably a criticism of every government that would be running. But I guess what do you guys have to say about that, or patience, or paying it forward?
I mean, as far as paying it forward goes, like, we're definitely the beneficiaries of what students did before us that we may not even know. He was a student body president. God, what was it, 67 or 69 that he came?
Believe so, yeah. He was right after Smith.
He was right after Don Smith. He came in, and one of the reasons why we have an ex officio within student government is because he had a great relationship with the city. And so we actually have a student government liaison that goes and meets with the city. That happened during his term. Did he really get to benefit from it? Not really. But we still have it around 50 years later? How crazy is that? It's pretty cool. Should you not do something because you won't get to experience it? I don't think so.
I don't think so at all, and I completely agree with you guys. I like to try to be the voice of the people who are hearing your guys' pitch for the first time and are like, well, no, because I want my things now. You know what I mean? Do you guys think that the concert is something that could happen next year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because you guys are working with a company right now that you guys are talking with them who do stuff like this, and you're pretty confident that this is like a feasible.
Yeah, that's what we asked. Like, because I think it's awful to go on platform on points and not deliver them to students. I really do think that's lying. And so we reached out. I mean, we've been talking to him for a long time now. His name's Andrew Grayson. He's the CEO of Six Pack Coverage. Six Pack does all sorts of college concerts across the country. And so we were talking like, hey, we have this account. I explained our special projects account. What does a college concert feasibility look like at a stadium? And we kind of walked him through it, and he created a spreadsheet for us and showed us the artists that he's worked with, what the expenses have been going into a concert, and then just overall feasibility. He thinks a year is fine.
Oh.
Yeah, and so he thinks a year is plenty of time, especially given the budget that we have for an event like this. Mm-hmm. He's all excited about it too. It just sounds like a win-win, because that's one of those big things too. I don't know anything about planning a concert personally. I haven't done that. I got a playlist on Apple Music, but that doesn't mean I know, I know some artists, right? No, that would be foolish. So it's about having those strategic partnerships and making sure that you reach out and you talk to experts in the field before you ever put something like that on your platform. And again, we had all those meetings with senior leaders and making sure that they were all on board for it.
So have you guys polled students and asked them very broadly what their concerns are, or how did you land upon like these points that these are the things that we need to hit and these are the things that we need to talk about or make your platform on?
I mean, a lot of it just came back through relationships with friends and, thinking big. I think that's our big thing is thinking big, saying less and doing more. I mean, Quinn, if you want to talk about your roommate who's Vietnamese.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that kind of ties into another platform point that we have that's big for us is doing career fairs specifically to international students. I think like Martin alluded to, my roommate is actually an international student himself. He's Vietnamese. And so kind of I've gotten to watch him through the past semester go through that process of finding a campus job. And, I don't know if anybody watching this is an international student. If you know any international students, that's a hard process, right? It's not a level playing field if you're an international student because employers, there's a stigma that, I'm going to have to fill out more paperwork. I'm going to have to sponsor this, kid's work visa, whatever it is. And so international students aren't fairly considered for the same jobs, that they're qualified for. So kind of having that event is something that, we have direct personal ties to. We also have a director of international student experience in our student government who, originally came up with this idea, who's very passionate about making it happen. And we haven't done it yet because people were like, can we really do this? Do we have the resources to get to that scale? Martin and I are big believers that if we put a common goal in front of student government and we put the right people in the right places, we can get big things done.
I mean, even just talk about our roommate compatibility form. So I came here from Tucson, Arizona. I didn't know a single person, and my roommate and I were not on the same page. He liked to stay up late playing video games and Call of Duty. I would go to bed early, and it was like this kind of like, butting heads, like, hey man, can you turn your game off? One more game. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, I'm not your mom. I'm not trying to come here and police you. That's the last thing on earth I want to do. I just want to go to bed at a decent hour. So how great would that be that, that first major connection you make on campus is your roommate, that you guys start off on the same page? Like, you're not going to put a Bears fan and a Packers fan together, right? Like you're going to have some separate. I don't know if are you a Bears fan or
I'm not a huge. I'm a Browns.
You're a Browns. They made the playoffs this year. You can't complain.
They did pretty good. There's an Elijah Moore on their team too.
Oh, so that's right.
I'm rooting for him.
Do you have the jersey?
No,
you don't have the dude. Why not? That's like a layup.
I'm not a big sports fan, but it is a layup. It is that'd be so awesome.
Dude, you got to get that.
I'm just waiting until I come up on Google before he does. So I wouldn't want to give him the clout.
You can go like DH gate too. Just pyro or whatever.
Yeah. So no, that is, and I think one of the coolest things about student government and one of the most noble things is when some of the platform points don't directly apply to you guys. So like with the international student affairs, neither of you are international students, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
You'd be spot on there.
As a podcast that you just made.
Sure. Like a TSA agent in the future.
Yeah, for sure. But, neither of you guys are international students, but the fact that you guys are making this program for international students is something that I commend you for because you're thinking about things that don't necessarily apply to you. What I worry, though, is that some of these platform points maybe do apply to you a lot, and I don't know. I don't know if like circles of influence are the exact polling data that you're going to want to use for things that are supposed to, interact with the whole student body. And so I don't want that to mean that what you guys have are bad ideas because I hate it when people are like, you're not including everybody, so you shouldn't do it at all. I don't think that, but I do think though that like polling data and your guys's campaign seems very personal to you guys. And I wonder like what you can do to alleviate to make sure that that like everybody wants this or that a large group of people want this and it's not something that maybe you guys just want.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our platform isn't, specific to a group of people. Like, it's not something that just applies to Martin or I. It's not something we want to personally benefit from. It's something that benefits all students. But I think, we've kind of talked about a couple specific platform points because they're, the big eye-catching things people talk about. But we talked about the roommate compatibility. That doesn't apply to everybody. Martin's not living in a dorm currently. He still cares what happens to people in dorms. When it comes to the International Career Fair, I'm not an international student. I connect with people who are. I know we talked about food insecurity. You mentioned a little bit earlier. Neither Martin or I are food insecure. But from having conversations with SHOP, that's a major strategic partner for us. We've kind of had those anecdotal conversations about like, hey, you guys get food deliveries on Wednesdays. By the end of that day, most of what they consider their grade A food is gone. Right? They don't have the funding to meet demand. They don't have the network to actually get volunteers because it's hard if you're a college student to donate your time for free to go serve food. I know we're also looking at doing a remote food pantry out at Towers so that even if you don't live on campus, you can still get the resources you need. Neither Martin or I live in Towers, right? We live, very close to campus. So I think our platform, really was based on talking to people, talking with people in student government who have these connections, whether it's with international students or with SHOP, and just talking with our peers. And so we're always looking to get broader input like I talked about, though. Like the student polling program we want to do. We haven't been able to launch that yet because you actually have to go through the Human Research Review Board because us doing polling at this scale technically is human research. But we want to hear what students have to say. And so kind of anecdotally right now is where student government's at. We're going to get student government a lot further so we can actually get more data on what students are really thinking.
Yeah, and it's important too. When you're running for student body president and vice president, you're not running to represent, 1,000 Iowa State students, 2,000 Iowa State students, Greek Life, IRHA, individually, you're representing all 30,000 Iowa State students, and you can't lose sight of that.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And like I said, I like the idea. I like the ideas on their face, and I think they're really important. I just kind of wanted to address an issue that maybe these are your guys' interests, or maybe not the interests of other people. But I do see what you're saying, in that these are kind of like applicable to all people. In terms of the SHOP program, you had mentioned something that was very interesting to me with the parking ticket relief program. Is that still in beta, or is that like something that you guys are like very public about with the parking ticket?
He's the parking ticket relief guy.
I'm talking about the parking
Quinn knows
ticket
what
relief
he's
program.
talking about there, yeah.
Because we sat down at the beginning of our terms and said, what can we actually get done this term that's meaningful? And that was one thing we came up with, was the idea of a parking ticket relief program. It was based on something they're doing at University of Arkansas right now. And so they call it the Work It Off program. We thought that was kind of a misleading name. So we're going to do kind of our own version of it, right?
Yeah.
But, I know from personal experience, I parked my car somewhere I wasn't supposed to during finals last semester because I was busy and I was stressed out, right? And I know that happens to other students. It's not abusing the system. It's just an unexpected expense that you have to face. And so the idea of this program,
It's my footsies.
I was like, what's going on here?
It's so funny how many times I've just locked foots with people while recording
it's
this
a tight
episode.
space.
See, I was going to try to power through it, but then you guys started laughing
I know,
about
I'm
it.
Sorry, Quinn. No, you were kicking it off.
We're having our moment
I was
here.
Hey, Quinn, if you you were talking about
University of
Arkansas.
Yeah. So it's
program.
based loosely on what they do. And so the idea is kind of two paths we're considering is either you can participate in a community service day and benefit campus, and that's how you get your ticket waived, or you can volunteer for an organization like SHOP. Because like we talked about, it kind of ties into our difficulty finding volunteers for SHOP and our food insecurity point. So those are kind of the two methods we're looking at right now. It's actually headed up by, his name is Mitch. He's our director of affordability. And so we just had a meeting about this yesterday, actually. And once we kind of solidify the logistics of how you're paying your ticket, it's about putting a bill forth to Senate, having them approve the program, and then it's about advertising it, making sure that students are actually aware that it's an option they can take.
Do you know if there's any because if I were to try to pitch a bill like that, I feel like parking would worry that this would, incentivize students to park in places they're probably not supposed to park. Have you addressed that, or is that something that you don't think they're going to worry about?
No, I mean, that was the first thing when we thought of this idea, or, we're kind of researching alternatives to this idea, right? Is let's have a meeting with, firstly, Police Chief Newton. So we had a meeting with him to discuss the idea. And more specifically, his name's Mark. He's the director of parking. We met with him and talked about what this logistically would look like. And so they didn't really have concerns like that because they know it's kind of a one-off thing of you made a mistake. Maybe you're in a difficult financial situation and shelling out, $25 to $50 is not something that you could do this week, right? So we're not advertising it in a way of park wherever you want. You see people on Snapchat of putting all those tickets on their wardrobes and dorms or whatever. That's not what we're doing, right? And it's limited to either we're looking at one a year or one a semester. So it's not something you can repeatedly do, just park wherever you want, right? It's something that kind of helps you if you've made a mistake and are having trouble paying for it, which is something I know a lot of students can struggle with.
Yeah, and I think that's super genius. I'm a parking ticket collector, so
we'll see your name.
You'll see
is
me
for
working in
you.
the kitchen, working in the shop, making sure that stuff's going.
It incentivizes people to help benefit campus in the way they hadn't before, right? Whether you weren't already participating in a campus cleanup, maybe you didn't know about SHOP, we're kind of opening up the doors to new volunteers who weren't aware that was an option before. So it's kind of benefiting campus too. It's not like we're just shelling out money. It's like, let's have you actually do something that benefits our shared campus.
What'd you say the name of it was in Arkansas?
Work It Off program. It didn't sound great to me, admittedly. If you're watching from the University of Arkansas, I love the program. The name is just a little confusing to me, and I'm like, who would want to volunteer for that, right?
It feels like I'd have to wear my yellow jumpsuit or my orange jumpsuit.
Yeah, right. But parking ticket relief.
That comes with it. No.
When I'm working in shop, I'm in like the striped shirt with my hands on.
I think maybe we could just take a shirt that says he got a ticket.
Yeah, that's what I do.
That's how you get your ticket paid. You just wear one of those for a couple of days on campus. I got a parking ticket. Student government. Yeah, it's helping
the public shame program.
Like a fantasy football punishment. No, seriously.
I just think that's so funny. Like going to shop, being like, "How'd you end up in here?" It's like I parked on.
It should be fun too, right? Because how cool would that be? Like maybe if you never got a ticket, you would never know in the first place what SHOP is and the service that they provide to students. And maybe you actually, you get into it and you're like, God, this is really cool. Giving back to the community is actually a good thing. I mean, I saw that firsthand. I joined Students for St. Jude's when I was a freshman here at Iowa State. I'm going to be honest. I was like, well, I'll do it for a resume, whatever. I should be involved in clubs. It was the most rewarding experience I've had outside of student government and a student organization on campus. It was absolutely awesome. Like the environment was fantastic. And it's like, man, what a good cause. Help raising money for kids that have cancer. Are you kidding me? I mean, it was unbelievably beneficial.
Yeah, well, and I think these, what I'm hearing from you guys is just a lot of really exciting things. And I get excited when I talk to anybody in student government because I just love the idea of people who are inspired to change things, inspired to do things. Because I feel like if you asked me, like, Elijah, what do you want to change on campus? I don't know if I'd be able to give you a single thing.
You don't do what's your platform points? Come on.
I literally
you were kind of, hey, now we're asking questions.
I literally have none, dude.
You don't have any platform?
I don't think so. Generally, I'm a very optimistic and positive person, just in general. So it's a struggle for me to like look and try to see like what the negatives are. And I know that's not like what you guys do. I know that like you guys get information from other people. I know you didn't come up with all these things because you hate campus so much. I
love Iowa State. Everyone always asks me like, dude, why did you go to Iowa State? I'm like, God, I love Iowa State. Like, why are you like saying it that way?
I super love Iowa State, and I love that government is interested in doing these things, and it seems like you guys are very motivated to do these things and change these things, and I really do appreciate that, and that's why I love having conversations with people in student government because they're just like so ready to just start changing things. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about marketing and advertising and what that looked for you guys. I'm very interested in what that process looks like, and tell me what it's like to advertise and to run a campaign.
Oh man, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. First of all, you got to think about what are you going to post? Why are you posting it? How is it going to look? And I'm not a visual, like I'm not a computer guy. I'm not creative like that. That's not my cup of tea at all. And so it's important to have those people that be involved in the campaign and be open to new ideas. Like, have a fostering environment where people can say, hey, I thought of this idea. Let's talk about it as a team. And then you come together and you make a decision. So that's number one. Like, we're proud to say that the current senior director of communications for student government is on our campaign team. Maddie, she's fantastic. And she's been helping us a lot with, what do we want our designs to look like? But as far as advertising goes, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work getting the posts and the photos done. Mm-hmm. And we did a TikTok. It was more of like a Chris Stocks. I don't know if you know who he is.
Not by the name. I've probably seen him, though.
He's done all sorts of TikToks on campus. He likes to go to the bars and do that stuff. But where he basically just goes up and walks up to people and asks them questions. Yeah, and that's what we were doing. We did one of those videos, and it was kind of funny, because you kind of cheat at first. You're like, that one. Here you go. You're going up to her, and you're all like looking at her at the same time. And you're like, okay, yeah. And then sometimes they'll try and like strategically walk away because they don't want to be in it. But you're just going up and talking to people and getting their raw. And I think that is like what makes for the best video. And so we think that's super interesting too. Like, we like doing approaches like that are more creative that you don't see out of just an everyday typical, campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wanted to know you guys' future plans for advertising, but I was told that you wouldn't want anybody to steal these wonderful ideas. But if there's anything you guys can tell me about what the future advertising looks like, especially in regards to campaign because it's next week that you guys are voting, right?
March 5th and 6th, yes,
yeah,
sir.
So
hey, after we win, we'll come on here and we'll break it down step by step. Okay.
Right. I'm really excited to hear and probably see it. Hopefully, I'll see what you guys are doing. But what about like the stress? What about the toll of like running a campaign while also doing school, running a campaign while also doing these things? Like I've heard that it is exhaustive, and I want to hear what this process is like from your guys' perspective.
Honestly, I'm fired up. Like, yeah, you don't get a ton of sleep every night, but that's okay. Hey, you know what? I signed up for it, right? You can't complain about something that you signed up for. Mm-hmm. I think it's exciting. Like, I love going up to clubs and being able to talk about what I'm going to do for you when I win, and then having, that's the truth. That's the absolute truth. And then having those questions and that conversation, and it's like, God, man, it fires me up. It makes my day. It's something that I look forward to. I'm excited. Campaigning's fun. Like, yeah, is it hard? Absolutely. Is it a lot of stress? Yeah, it can be, but we have such a good time, I think, going up to those clubs and having conversations. Like, God, how can you not have a good time with it? It's so cool. I mean, it's like energizing is the best way to put it.
You have any thoughts on?
Maybe Quinn's totally the opposite of me.
I completely agree. Like, it is a thing that fires a person up. Like, it's a lot of fun, but you don't get a lot of sleep. I second that part of it, right? Like, Martin and I, we sat down and we're like, hey, let's talk to as many clubs, as many hall and house councils as we can, right? Even if they don't vote for us, we want them to understand what we're about. So that way, if we do win, I know when we win, as Martin said, right?
When we win.
Martin has the confidence there, and I admire that. But we have that connection, right, with a group of people who understand who we are and what we're about. But it is draining, purely based on the number of places you have to be. I know Martin and I sometimes are tag teaming it. We're like, hey, we're going to go talk to these clubs tonight. Let's figure out how to be at all of them and talk to all of these people that we know want to hear from us. But it's a lot of fun at the same time, because when I have time to, I also like to stay at the meeting till the end of it. And so, kind of after the meeting, and less of a like, hey, I'm not like lecturing at you, I'm not presenting. Mm-hmm. Let's have a conversation. And that's when people really come up to me and ask real questions about our platform, and I can just kind of understand where they're at too. And some, students have given me great ideas as far as things we could consider doing in addition to our platform, that maybe I hadn't thought about before.
Well, yeah, and I wonder how this plays into your image and like expressing your platform. So when you're thinking about creatively, what do I look like? I mean, how do you make these decisions on running like a platform and advertising yourselves? You know what I mean? That just seems so daunting to me, to be like, I have to be this kind of person, especially if maybe like you're really confident about winning in your guys' campaign. And I think that that's really awesome. I wonder though, if that's like something that you are pushing out there because that's part of your image, or if that's something that like you truly feel. I imagine you do.
Yeah, I'm 100% a true believer. Absolutely. It's really just, I don't think I'd be confident if we didn't get the feedback that we've gotten. It's been overwhelming. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of the things you have to do in order for you to actually get on the ballot for people to vote for you, you have to petition, which requires 750 signatures. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time counting Saturday because we really didn't start, but Sunday, we started really trying to get signatures. We were on there by Tuesday?
Yeah.
Tuesday. So, 3 days, 4 days technically if you count Saturday. I don't like to. But we got 750 signatures in 4 days. 3 if you count, go by us. So 250 a day. How crazy is that? I had a previous finance director, Mason Zastro, who slid up on my store and he was like, dude, that is insane. Like, that is crazy. We have Kit Claiborne, who was finance director last year, was on our campaign team, and he was like, I have no idea how you guys did that. Wow. Like, he was on there a couple of days. He still had to get signatures a couple of days before the deadline officially closed. No shame to him. That's what happens for a majority of campaigns. It's going right up to the wire, but we were able to get on there in 4 days. Like, the support has been unbelievably overwhelming.
Well, yeah, and I think people underestimate how big of an accomplishment 250 interactions on anything is. You know what I mean? Other than some like meme post of like skinny dipping in Lake Laverne or whatever. But
we're not doing that, okay? You're talking about marketing.
Well, to be seen by 250 people is like an achievement. You know what I mean? Especially if it's something that you're consistently doing. So like over the span of 3 days, getting 250 people to interact with your stuff is pretty impressive. And I think that'd be true with any campaign. And that's why I'm so interested in what you guys are doing, and like when you guys are posting those things on, do you think it was connections that you had maybe before? Like, did you have a lot of people you were friends with on Snapchat that saw your stories and that's where it comes from? Or was it like putting posters up? Was it like, how did you guys?
No, it wasn't. It was just, going up and talking to people. Like, it's scary. Like, when you see someone there and they're just at a table, you don't know who they are, and you just walk over there and introduce yourself. Yeah, man.
So you walked around and.
Oh my God, yeah. Like, I would just walk through the MU, like the dining there, and then I would walk through Jardine. I would go over to Parks, whatever it may be, and just say like, hey, my name's Martin, so sorry for interrupting. That was the thing, right? Hey, sorry for interrupting. You don't want to say like, hey, do you have a second? Because then they can just close the door in your face. You're like, yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can say. But you just say, hey, my name's Martin. I'm so sorry for interrupting. I'm running for student body president. In order for you to be able to vote for me on March 5th and 6th, you have to petition, which requires 750 signatures. Would you mind taking 30 seconds and just scanning this QR code for me? And then as they're scanning the QR code, you start having real conversation. Like, yeah, I'm running. I want to do a free concert for all students at Jack Trice. I want to expand non-ISU dining food options on campus. I want to fix prep week. It's BS. They try and jack you with some homework and quiz assignments that weren't even on the syllabus to begin with. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So that's what it was. It was literally just going up and having conversations with people. And shockingly, even though I was pretty nervous the first 50, after a while, you feel good. Like, I can talk to anyone. That's how I feel. Like, it doesn't matter. You could hate me, love me, whatever it may be. I'm still good. Let's have a conversation. It's totally okay. And I really did not have the door closed on me. I think I got maybe 3 or 4 no's out of every single person I talked to, which was probably the coolest part. Yep. And you know what? If they say no, man, that's okay. Yeah. Hey, that's all right. I don't care. That doesn't affect my day. It's not going to change, what I think about what I'm doing. It's been unbelievable. There was a group of guys at Jardine, or not Jardine, it was Parks. And I went up and I kind of gave my pitch. And so I thought they all scanned the QR code, and I got up and left. One dude was like, hey man, no, I didn't get the code. I was like, oh, there you go. And then I was walking away, and a different guy from that table got up and kind of chased me down a little bit and just said, hey man, I want to shake your hand. I hope to God you win. And that was the first day of me doing this. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it means something. It means something to people because we haven't had it. You've had to pay into it and you haven't had it. And to have someone that's actually going to say, this is what we're going to do for you, is unbelievable. It's just been a fantastic process.
Well, and I feel like you guys have absolutely started the conversation on what to do with $1.6 million.
It's not 1.6. It's around 1.4 or 1.5.
Or 1. Yeah. So over $1 million.
Hey, you like rounding up? That's okay.
Yeah. That like $2 million or
$24 million.
Yeah. Soon by the end of this, there's gonna be like 30, $1 billion. 40, it's gonna be $1 billion, dude. You guys got $1 billion.
You guys got $1 billion when you're talking about this. But you guys have started this conversation about what's gonna happen with this money. I feel like, let's say asteroid strikes and you guys no longer exist, right? You guys don't get elected.
There's a lot of hypotheticals of us just not being here.
I think we have 5 years concerns than being elected if that's the thing that happened.
But I feel like I don't know how any campaign, even let's say when you guys win in 2 years, you guys are sophomores now, juniors?
Yeah, that was tough for me because I had to go home. I actually got really bad COVID and tonsillitis at the same time. Like, it was the worst. It was the worst thing ever because I didn't even have a car. I went to Thielen, whatever. I go to Mary Greenlee, and my jaw is so inflamed from the COVID and tonsillitis. They do a CAT scan, and they find a thyroid nodule, which isn't super alarming for most people. Like, every other person tends to have it, but at my age, from what they told me and the size of it, they were a little concerned. So after you do a CAT scan, you have to do an ultrasound, and that's really where they determine whether or not they have to do a biopsy of it and go down that whole process. But here I am. I've been the sickest I've ever been in my entire life for 2 weeks. The closest family member I have, I think Riverton, Wyoming's technically closer than Tucson, Arizona, but still, whatever, how many thousand miles it's like 1,000+ miles. Mm-hmm. I don't have a car. I know 0 doctors here in Ames, Iowa. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I had to withdraw. I had to withdraw from classes. It was an unbelievably difficult decision. Thank God it was not cancerous or anything bad. Mm-hmm. I still have to do an ultrasound. I got one when I went home over winter break, but I got my tonsils out. And that was the biggest game changer of all time. That was just like the best decision I've ever made because I used to get sick all the time. Mm-hmm. And now I don't get sick anymore. And when the doctor took him out, he's a family friend. He was like, man, those were some of the most scarred up tonsils I've ever seen. I was like, yeah, dude, I believe. He's like, you got a lot of throat infections. Yeah, I did.
Well, I'm sorry about that. Did that kind of delay like the process?
A little bit, just by
involved?
a semester. But
Okay.
I'm planning on doing some summer classes, like making sure it doesn't interfere with my internship. But I want to graduate in 25.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
so-
next year.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. So are you also?
I'm a sophomore currently, so
Sophomore okay,
so
so you know a
I'll
little
live
bit.
Martin in student government a little
Yeah,
bit, which
yeah.
is kind of nice because people ask us like, how can you make sure these things keep happening? I'm like, A, because Martin's going to be here a year, I'm going to be here 2 years, and B, because we're going to put cabinet members in place who will exist beyond the two of us. So
Well, and yeah, when you're doing this, since you guys only have like 2 years, I wonder if you guys are putting so many eyes on this account, so many eyes on this lump of money, that I feel like even just this conversation is going to be enough to make sure that every question, I feel like every government has to be asked now, what are you guys going to do with that $3.3 million that you guys have in that account?
No, you keep rounding up, man. No, come on. But no,
or whatever. Well, let's say you guys do the concert and you guys raise a bunch of money and then you guys do it or whatever. And then the next year you guys have 2 million or however much is in there. But I feel like you guys put a lot of eyes on this account, and I feel like this is going to change the conversation as to what I hope it changes the conversation as to what student government is doing.
there should be a lot of eyes on it because it's student money. Because everyone at this table, we've all paid into it. There should be a lot of eyes on it.
You guys should get a discount though, right? Surely you guys aren't paying the $40. This is like the
49 off every penny, and that's really one of the major reasons why it hits so close to home.
Well, and so in regards to campaigning and stuff, I talked to you about the sidewalk chalk being very effective as like name recognition and stuff like that, and I was wondering how you guys are getting your names out other than just like the petition that you guys were doing at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think chalking's great, but when is it great? Just sometime during the week that it doesn't really have a lot of meeting until actual election day, I don't think is the best use of our time. I think, being able to actually connect with students and going up to club meetings and talking about what student government is and what we can do for you is always going to be a better use of energy than, putting some chalk down on sidewalk that's going to get hosed down in a couple of days.
So have you guys been just like hauling it, like with talking to groups with like the time you've saved not chalking?
Yeah, we've been able to meet with a lot of clubs on campus. It's been fantastic.
Is there ever a point where you've talked to everybody? Is there
no
even a number?
No,
that...
we'll go twice. No, seriously, it doesn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. I mean, it's still, if you guys are really pushing it, I think that does a lot in conversations. Like I know with Ludwig and Ulrich, I voted for them because they were the only people that I knew were running, and that's because they came and talked to my hall council. So it does get votes, and it gets lots of votes. And especially if you're the first person to have talked to that group, like that does so much in getting the vote from that person. You know what I mean? If you guys are the first person, or even if the only person, like that's pretty much a guaranteed vote.
Even if it's not just voting for us, but it encourages someone to do their civic duty and vote, it's worth it.
I know when we give presentations, we don't end with, hey, be sure and vote us specifically. We say, even if it's not for us, go vote, right? And I give the example. We had 2,000 people vote last year in our elections out of 25, 30,000 students. I don't recall exactly what enrollment was. That's not a lot, right? And like Martin is saying, like being engaged, voting, that's how you hold us accountable and make sure we're, doing good things for you, how you make sure that your money is being spent in a way that you're confident in. And so, that's really what we're trying to do even. Like if we get someone to vote for the other team, that's still someone who voted.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, that's still a success, right?
Well, and I think I love this episode because it serves as a time capsule to where next year when I talk to you guys, I could be like, okay, how'd you guys do?
Yeah,
What's the progress?
We're happy to come back.
And
We'll do it again.
How'd it go? And that's super awesome because that's what I did with Jennifer, because I had her on when she was campaigning for the first semester. And then when she got on for this episode, I was like, okay, you said this, and this. How did it go? You know what I mean? And she told me like this stuff was successful. This stuff's going to need a couple more months. This stuff's in a week. It's going to happen or whatever. And I thought that was really awesome so that people can see like this is what your student government is doing. So I'm really excited to come up to you guys and probably come up to you guys during the concert and see.
Absolutely, dude. Right? Let's get the artists. We'll make it mandatory. They have to come on. They have to come on here.
That'll be part of the contract.
Yeah, that'll
we'll
be
make it
a
happen.
requirement.
I do have a question about the concert, and this is a point maybe I probably would go to a concert of a person that I didn't know. You know what I mean? But it does seem like when you guys are picking who's coming, I don't even know how I would make that decision.
We're not picking. You're picking.
Oh, so you're going to do like a poll of
Exactly.
like... Oh, okay. I mean, that probably works too. But even then, like... When someone goes up and I don't know, like you guys mentioned the concert that like sold out was like three of the biggest country artists that are going on right now. Like I don't even know if I'd go to that.
Yeah, if it was free, you would, right? You wouldn't pay like whatever the ticket, the cheapest one, like a couple $100. Yeah, crazy expensive.
Yeah, that's probably true. If it was free, I'd probably go.
And all your friends would go.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a really cool idea, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. It opens the idea. It's such a humongous event, and I'm really excited to see how that goes in planning, how that goes in like actual the day of with like security, with like ticket accounting and like making sure that everyone has a ticket and buys a ticket, with even like the money in and out. This is going to be like a Herculean feat. I mean, this is going to be a big deal. So I'm really excited to see how you guys handle this and how you guys do it, because if there are one point, like people are going to be watching this concert and making sure that it gets done well. So I feel the pressure, but I imagine that the pressure motivates you guys to do a good job.
Pressure, burst pipes or, creates diamonds, all right, we'll see,
Yeah, we'll see. So I'm really excited to see, where it goes. I wanted to talk just a little bit more about like this image. Cause there's a point I wanted to talk about earlier in regards to like your confidence. When you're maintaining an image of what you want to be seen mentally, how does that come off? Like, how does that affect you guys when you're talking to a person, you need to come off a certain way, or you don't want to come off a certain way? I imagine that's like a really stressful position to be in, to really monitor how you're acting.
Honestly, I don't really think about it. I'm pretty authentic. I'm unapologetically myself. And if you like me, that's great. If you don't like me, that's okay too. This is who I am as a person. And if you want to get on, get on board. And I think when you talk to how many clubs have we talked to?
A number I probably wouldn't be able to guess right now. A lot of clubs, I'll tell you that.
Can you lowball me like a number? Like,
I have a spreadsheet I can show you after this. How about,
hundreds, I'm assuming?
It's a long spreadsheet. I've sent hundreds of emails in the past couple of weeks, like to the point where my inbox literally stopped working for a brief period of time. I'm not exaggerating on that part.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to start using library computers for a little bit because I couldn't check my email. So yeah, a lot of clubs. I'll pull that up.
That's interesting. Very interested.
Yeah, it's not stressful when you're yourself.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Quinn? How's that dealing?
I definitely agree with Martin, though, because we didn't sit down and say, who do we want to portray ourselves as? We sat down and said, who are we right now? What do our roles look like? What are our strengths and weaknesses? What do we see as the problems with students? With the student body. I shouldn't say with the student body, but like facing the student body, right? And so we didn't sit down trying to fabricate something. We sat down trying to say, what are our strengths and how can we translate those into something that helps students? And so I think probably the closest to what you're talking about is, talking to different audiences. Sometimes you highlight different things. I know when I go to hall and house councils, I'm like, yes, I'm going to talk about roommate compatibility. I'm for sure going to talk about dining, because as someone in a residence hall, I know that affects me really directly. So it's like knowing your audience, what things to highlight, but none of the things we're talking about are things we're unfamiliar with or things we fabricated. Like it's all, what we're passionate about, what we're good at doing. So I know that contributes a lot to the fact that we're very confident because we've done the homework, right, to make sure that we can actually accomplish all these things.
And the reaction has been just unbelievable.
Yeah, well, and I'm a big supporter of people just going out and doing what they want to do, doing what they're passionate about. And that's why I like talking to people about like you. What do you think? What do you think the next week looks like when you're getting into the zone? If there were messages that you'd want to portray to people in the next week, I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk about these things.
When is this podcast going up?
Today, hopefully.
Oh, wow. You got a fast turnaround time.
Well, I'm doing it very specifically for you guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Because I know that election.
I'm like, having worked on like video stuff and podcasts in the past, I'm like, oh my God, I could not do what you're doing right now.
Well, I don't. Oh, sorry. You don't need
kudos to you.
You don't need to boost me up. This takes no editing. This takes no editing. Okay. It all gets edited when the cameras switch.
Yeah.
So I just have to put an intro, outro, make it sound better, and upload it. So there's no issue with that. But normally I do my uploads on Thursdays afternoon. But I didn't upload an episode yesterday because I was hoping I'd be able to get you guys in.
Hey, we appreciate that.
And post you guys so that you guys have some time to use this. But to give you an opportunity to share this out to the people in this next week when like it's really grind time, what do you guys have to say?
There will be a pizza event on the lawn by Beardshear. Come to it. We'll have free pizza for you. We hope to talk to you. Remember, March 5th and 6th is when we'll be having the pizza event. What time are we starting at, Quinn?
We're starting at 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
11 to 2.
11 a.m. Pizza out front of Curtis Hall. Be there March 5th and 6th.
we're going to be there. Our campaign team's going to be there. Like, we're happy to answer questions too. Like, we just want to connect with you if you haven't heard about us, and maybe serve you some pizza at the same time.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love pizza? I mean, that's one of the questions you asked, right? What's your favorite food? Steak and pizza. Like, come on, is that?
We know you're going to be there.
Does that not sound like a
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Wednesday,
5th and 6th. I'm a very busy guy, but I'll try to make the rounds. I'm very excited.
You don't even have to stop walking. You can just kind of slow down a little bit. We'll get you some pizza
on the skateboard too. Yeah,
on the skateboard. Toss it like a frisbee, and I'll catch it.
We'll just throw you a box. Right?
I'll be running. Okay, so here are our points, and we're thinking.
That's funny, man. That's funny. Yeah, exactly.
That'll be good. I'm really excited. I'm pretty excited about you guys, and I think you guys have a really positive outlook, and I love the confidence. I think that's a very attractive position as far as like politics go, and I know this isn't like politics in the way that most people think.
I don't ever want to be referred to as a politician.
But I think it's a really attractive look for what you guys are going for getting on the position, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I do think it's really interesting though, in that you've been working with Jennifer for, right?
I've been working with Jennifer this term.
You worked with Jennifer this term, and then now you guys are kind of competing, and you have the ins on like, this is what this last semester looked like. These are the things that I really liked. And I wanted to kind of break down your guys' team real quick and like what you guys each offer for each other and how this dynamic works, especially since your experience and then you're kind of the newbie coming in. Obviously, you've been involved for
3 years in finance director and oversees $2.6 million student money just from our mandatory student activity. The newbie, whatever, right? Okay.
But this dynamic, as far as like the top of student government looks like, what do you guys offer each other, and how does this team work?
Sure. So I think one thing that I bring to the table, like you kind of talked about, is experience. So I'm currently serving as student body vice president. Kind of on the technical side of that, student body vice president's the one who leads Senate. And so I already have kind of the technical experience to step in and know what Senate does and know how to help Senate. Because I was a senator before I was vice president. I was speaker of the Senate, and so I kind of know the procedure there. But more broadly, talking about what Martin and I are going to accomplish, I bring a lot of connections as vice president, right? I know after this, I'm actually going to have a meeting with President Winterstein and Provost Wickert, alongside Jennifer. So I have the connections to actually, get us in touch with the people in the university who can help us make these great things happen. And so I'm not, as vice president, I've talked about this before. I said this a little bit in the vice presidential debate. I'm not directly a decision maker as the vice president. I'm an advisor to the president. And so I bring kind of the background and the experience to help Martin, with all the stuff that we're going to get done together. Is that kind of fair description?
Yeah, I would say that's fair too. And I think one of the great things about having the finance background too is that's probably the biggest thing that we do as an organization is allocate money to student organizations on campus and receive that mandatory student activity fee. And so to be able to have that background, because everyone asks me questions, everyone goes straight to the finance director, even the president, because the finance director is going to have the most knowledge about student government finances, which is the most important thing that we have as an organization. So to be able to have that information and knowledge going into the role is fantastic. We haven't had one. It was Kit that ran last year against Jennifer and Emily, or Emily and Jennifer, that lost. But I don't know when the last time we've had a finance director to president, because finance director is a ton of work. It is an unbelievable amount of meetings, emails, questions.
Yeah. You heard me say the other day that treasurer is easily like anything finance related is easily like the hardest and most important position in any government. Just because they handle so much. So
it's a lot. Yeah. We have numerous accounts that I have to oversee and make sure that money is being correctly spent. We have invoices and reimbursement payments that we have to make to asset. I mean, it's an unbelievable amount of work you have to do as finance director, right? Yeah. And so if you can do that, I think you can do president and be very efficient. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I would love to just round this episode off and end it with just a little bit of words from both of you. I like to let you guys have the last word, and whether that's talking about some of the important things coming up, like that pizza party or voting, or some of the other important points that maybe you didn't think you get to talk about. But I'd like to give this opportunity for each of you to talk a little bit and round this episode off.
Yeah, I would just say, make sure to check out our Instagram, Hursh.Margrett. And obviously, you've been listening to this podcast tonight or today. I don't know what time it's going out at. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I want you to think about, what does our version of student government look like for you? Think about it and make a decision is my thing. But no matter what you decide to do, go out and vote.
What about
Yeah,
you?
no, I think Martin put it very well there. I think, we're really running so that student government can do big things that we haven't in the past. And so I really hope students are connecting with our ideas, seeing the value in that. And again, like I said earlier, I'll kind of talk about this, and I'll talk to you too directly. Vote, right, next Tuesday and Wednesday, even if it's not for us. Because like I said, 2,000 people voting in student government, that doesn't, incentivize people to do good work for us. It doesn't hold people accountable. I think voting is how you make sure that student government is doing great work for you. So I really would encourage everybody to vote. And like we talked about next Tuesday and Wednesday, Central Campus, come get some pizza. We're happy to talk more about any of the things we talked on the show about today.
Yeah, well, you guys are both awesome, and I loved having a conversation and getting to know your guys' points. But thank you for coming on.
Fantastic. Thank
So
you.
we appreciate it. Thank you.